Good morning, everybody. We're live. It's Wednesday. We're halfway through the week. And today we're talking about leash reactivity. This is a good one. This is a big one. I'm going to dive into why dogs are leash reactive. First of all, what is leash reactivity? Why dogs are leash reactive? There's two different types of leash reactivity, in my opinion. And yeah, we're going to get into how it's created, why dogs do it, how to stop it, all that good stuff. Also, like how to identify how bad your dog is. When it comes to leash reactivity, it's a spectrum. So you got really easy dogs that are reactive, and then on the other end, you got really, really, really severe cases, okay, that need serious rehab. So, as everyone's joining, good morning. It's Wednesday. We're halfway through the week. We're continuing on the series of talking about. It started with the one on Monday, I think it was how to put a dog in their place. And then I went and did the tools yesterday. And today we're going to talk about leash reactivity because we got to talk about something. And this is going to be great. If you've watched the other two videos, now you understand some things. You understand the tools that we're using. You understand the mindset. Now I'm going to talk about leash reactivity and why dogs do it, why everybody's struggling with it, and how you can stop it and get over it, okay, and move on with your life. Welcome. Good morning. Thanks for joining. Hi from Brazil. Awesome. Okay, a lot of people have reactive dogs because dogs naturally are reactive animals. So most dogs become reactive on the leash. Most every dog does become reactive to one form or another. Okay, but you can stop it because you can disagree. Luckily, as an owner, you can disagree with certain things. So let's get into it. I got a dog that has pretty severe reactivity right now in Tank, the pit bull, and we took him out to Frederick yesterday, and I'm on a little early again today, a few minutes early, because we're going to take him out again to Frederick, to the city, because we're going to be putting him around dogs so that we can enter that situation that he struggles in, so that we can start to alter the way that he responds. Okay, now let's talk about the different types of reactivity. I'm going to try to make it really easy for you guys. To me, when I'm working with a reactive dog, there's only really two types that I ever see, okay? One is the fear-based reactive dog. The dog who's reacting at everything strongly to keep the outside world away. So that they're barking at the dog because they don't want it to come any closer. They're barking at the people because they don't want it to come any closer. And they think that their barking is what's getting the dog and the person to leave, but really they were just walking by on a walk. But this dog just thinks that if I bark and if I react at things, actually there's three different types, so I'm going to put one more on here. Okay, but the fear, that's one. Insecurity, let's just call it insecurity, because it doesn't have to be straight up terrified either. It can just be, I bark at things that I'm slightly concerned about. Like everything's a spectrum. That's what I need you to know, okay? Okay, so we got these guys that are fearful, and they're barking to keep the world away because they're nervous. Stay away from me, stay away from me, stay away from me. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, you know what else we got? We got the guys and girls that do it for fun. We got the guys and girls that like to have confrontation. They like to maybe bully a little bit other dogs, or they really like to play with other dogs, so they see them as something that they want. The thing is I want to go over there. I want to go over to that dog, whether it's to play with that dog or to fight with that dog or to bully that dog, to hump that dog, whatever it is, I want to go over there. So we got the guys that don't want to go over there, the fearful dogs that are barking to keep everybody away and even lunging to keep everybody away. Then you got the dogs who they're concerned about it being a good time. I like doing this activity. And they actually hit the end of the leash and bark and lunge, but they actually want to go over. They want to get to the dog. Okay, so they're thinking, yeah, let's do this. Those are the dogs that are on the walk that are looking around for other dogs, which we call scanning, because they love to fence fight. They love to bark at each other and bitch at each other and say, come on, bring it on, bro, blah, 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 blah. They get adrenalized from it. They love it. It's like listening to good heavy music and working out at the gym. You know, that's what they're getting out of it. You see that in a lot of bully breeds, okay? It just boom. And then once they walk past that situation, they're picked up, their tail's up, they got their boost of confidence, and they're looking for the next dog to explode on. That's the guy who I have in today, right? He enjoys these activities. Now, there is one other category that I snuck in there for a leash reactive dog, and that's prey drive. Just about any dog, the dog who's fearful, the dog who sees everything as fun, they're both able to enter prey drive when they see squirrels or small animals, and that can cause what we would call leash reactivity too, right? They'll try to pull, bark, chase, go after the squirrels, the birds, blah, blah, blah. So we got the fearful dogs, and we got the dogs who are just out to have a damn good time and get jacked up on this stuff, you know, and some of them just want to play. Some of them like the fight. Some of them like the fight. So either way, they enjoy the activity. And then we got the prey drive stuff. Okay? That's what we see. That's what we see. And generally, the dogs who like to go over and fight and they like to bully, they generally have very strong prey drive too. So they can be a real big pain in the ass. But they're not afraid. But they're not afraid of the other dogs. And they're not afraid of the world. They're very interactive with it. So you got to be able to know the difference, right? Usually a trainer can. Now, we got to get into how trainer would stop this stuff or turn it around in a dog's head, because we do it every day. Actually, you can make a whole living just stopping leash reactivity. And one thing I want you to know, if you're just joining in, we're talking about leash reactivity. Most of the time, because I said it's a spectrum, right? Most of the leash reactivity we see is right in the middle, like they're mild severity. They're not severe, and they're not super easy. They're just mild severity. But there are plenty of dogs that are easy. Like they look big and bad. My first couple years of training, I dealt with these dogs weekly, and they would be barking, they'd sound huge, and they would be puffed up in confidence. You have them, you hand them to the trainer, they do the same thing, they react to a dog, they get corrected one time, and they drop it for the rest of their lives. You know what I mean? I've seen those dogs, they're out there. They're out there, it's like one and done. If you do the setup, you correct the dog for doing it, and then they were just like, wow, okay, didn't know that was on the table, and they're done. The mild dogs take a few experiences stacked on top of each other to start to change their way of viewing it. And then the severe dogs are gonna literally take the course of a rehab to get through it. So, now that we know what it is, everybody's seen it. Everybody's either been on the other end of the leash or seen somebody who was on the other end of the leash. It's not fun. It's not fun at all. It's very stressful. How do we stop it? First thing I want you guys to know when you get off from here, go look at our stories from yesterday before they disappear. You got the rest of the day to do it, I'm sure. You're going to see those pictures of Tank. I'm allowing him to react to a dog because he explodes at dogs. And with high levels of anxiety and stress in his system as soon as he sees a dog, and then he reacts to the dog, he explodes at the dog, it's a big scene. And then even when you get away from the dog, he's real bad stuff, right? So it's leaning towards severe. So that's rehab. What am I going to do? How am I going to teach this dog to not do this, right? This is what I'm trying to get at. There's a place that you can go wrong, okay? When we're first dealing with a dog who's leash reactive, I don't want to tell him, don't go after those dogs, stay and heel, which is a command, which is a common approach. You teach the dog heel, but you never teach them not to go over to the other dogs. You just teach them heel. And then you go out in the world and you try, when they're trying to react to the other dogs, you're saying no, heel, and you're correcting them for breaking the command heel. And it has a little success because the dog won't break the command if you've done your training right, but they'll want to break your command. They'll be really wanting, they'll be struggling when they pass these dogs. And if you do that long enough, the dog won't go over there, but he'll always want to. And your dog is now going to associate this event with, it's going to continue with the anxiety, it's going to continue whining, it's going to be unreliable in those moments, and it's going to just feel off. Here's why. You didn't do the rehab work. You didn't do the work to change the dog's mind first. We do not take that approach anymore. I've taken that approach in the past. I've learned from it. The approach I take now is changing the way the dog thinks first and then adding on training afterwards. So showing the dog what not to do and then teaching it what to do. Not doing it the other way around, which is teaching it what to do and then holding it accountable for doing that while it sees things that it wants to do that it's not supposed to, okay? So I have to change the way this dog believes first. It sounds complicated, but it's really, really, other than it being a risky kind of thing because you're working with dogs here that are aggressive, potentially. The results are very, very good and very fast, and it works because this is what happens. 1 second the dog says, I want to go after that dog. The other second it says, I no longer want to go after that dog. In fact, I no longer want to go after dogs. I'm done with that behavior. It no longer serves me. It's been proven to me time and time again that it doesn't end well anymore. I don't like that behavior. And while the dog's now, what most trainers call that is avoidance. They're like, I'm avoiding that situation now. As soon as the dog's in avoidance, then we step in and we say, let me show you what to do. Hey, bud, come here. Heel. Let me show you how to heel past these dogs. And then the dog notices, as long as I'm in heel and minding my own business, there's never a correction. And you see the dog like the heel command now, like this is the way around dogs. This is the way I can walk around them. I don't have to pay attention to them. And the dog, this is the difference between this dog and the dog that wasn't taught this way. This dog has no interest in going up on the dogs anymore. In his own mind, he's looking to avoid it. I'm just there to show him how now. And that's his relation to the heel command when he sees dogs. They'll actually see a dog. Dogs that are trained like this, they'll see a dog and they'll put themselves in heel. Because they know if I'm in heel, everything's going to be okay. And this works for the fearful dogs and the dogs who do it for fun. You do it, it's the same thing. And we're going to get into that. It's like, well, the fearful dog is because he's afraid. And it's like, I hear you, but you want to help the dog, right? Right? You want to help the dog. So the dog is doing it for fun. He explodes. What we do is we do setups, controlled experiences. This is what the name of the game is right here. You get good at this stuff. And this is the fun part of the job too, because you have to be on your game. You have to be you have to be with it, and you have to know what you're doing. So we do setups. They feel like the real thing to the dog, but they're controlled experiences. I'm walking, let's say Tank. I'll use Tank for example, because he's the perfect guy. He does this for fun, and he does it because he likes to bully other dogs because it makes him feel good, because he's actually insecure underneath it all, because he's a middle of the road dog, and he just wants that hierarchy dispute to make him feel good. Right? Classic bully. But he also likes to have fun. So he's got it both. He sees it and boom. He leans more towards severe if we're talking about Tank though, because he does have anxiety wrapped into it, which is not good, and stress. So other than just the fun, he's on the severe side because he does have those, when anxiety's in it, it's a mess. And stress, when a dog's not just doing it like a sport, like they just chase the ball. You see dogs that do that. They react and they just whoa, 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 but they're not really super stressed afterwards. They're kind of amped up, but they're not stressed. The severe guys, they're super fucking stressed. They're messed up in the head afterwards. Like you can't. They have to snap out of it eventually. That's Tank. So he's pretty high up there. But this is how we're gonna do it. We're going to have Tank walking with me. I'm gonna have him free. I'm not gonna put him in command yet, right? And I'm going to, at this point, Tank knows recall. By the time we're doing this, Tank knows recall. Beep on the remote means come back to me. And he knows how to stay a little bit with me. So after I let him react and get corrected, I can recall him back. That's an important part. I don't want to just correct the dog who knows nothing on the e-collar and doesn't know what to do, and then he just sits there or maybe even gets into a fight or tries to fight through it. He's got some training. So now we're walking on the streets of Frederick, and we call Gabby up and we say, come around the corner with Taco. She comes around the corner with Taco. He's never met Taco. He's never met Gabby. And what we're using is her dog barking. She's got it on cue, so they get closer. First thing that happens, they're way down the road. He sees them. Every dog does this. They see it, boom, their ears are perked. They're already locked in, and now they're starting to load, okay? I'll get to all the questions when I'm done too, by the way. So now he's starting to load. They're getting closer. I really want to go over, but I know I'm not supposed to because my owner's told me in the past a few times they don't like it. So you do see that a little bit with him. Or some dogs where they want to, but they know they're not supposed to. But I don't correct it. We get closer. Taco's barking. He loses it and he starts to lunge at the dog. And in the moment that he starts to lunge and he commits on going over to that dog in a very hot and heavy and not so safe way at all, not good. That's where he hits the end of the leash. He gets his correction on the e-collar. He gets recalled back to me. He settles down and we reset, meaning they walk away or I walk away with Tank, calm the mind, and then go back at it. Let's walk by again. This is also why dog trainers are able to get rid of leash reactivity like this, is because they go after it, where owners will struggle with it for 12, 14, 16, the duration of the dog's life, because they say, oh, there's another dog, let's go away and avoid that. Where trainers are like, let's go find dogs so I can teach you what not to do by having you do the thing that I don't want you to do and correcting you to the point where you don't do it anymore. That's just how it goes, right? The dog has to learn the stove is hot, right? If he doesn't, he's always going to want to go touch the stove. So he goes up on the dog hot and heavy, gets his correction, gets recalled back to me. And the second time, we see something different. We see him curious in the dog, but not too much, though. I don't want to go up on that dog. I would rather hang over towards the handler. And as he hangs over towards me, he gets pet on the head, right? He gets a pet on the head, but that pet on the head, the second I pet on the head, he thinks that means that it's okay to go over to the dog. So then he starts to go over, and I give him a mild correction. I give him a mild because I gave him the big one already. And I gave him a mild one for that little error, and he came right back to me. Okay, good, pat on the head. Let's do it again. Create some distance, let's pass again. Third time, you can see that he's avoiding the dog. He's almost practically in a heel, looking up at me saying, this is what you want. I'm saying, good boy, I'm petting him on the head, letting him know, yes, that's what I want. I just want you to not react to this dog. I want to walk by this dog, and I don't want you to even pay him any mind. So he gets pet, so he's getting rewarded for that, and he's feeling good. He's like, okay, this is good. I'm starting to understand how to avoid the correction that I just got. I'm starting to understand that reacting at this dog and trying to go at him while screaming bloody murder is why I got corrected. And if I'm a gentleman and I walk by and I pay attention to my handler and I'm trying to do good, then we're fine. But you got to try. You got to try to do good. And it's not hard to understand what I'm saying to you if you're paying attention. So what happens is now he has no interest in Taco. Now we have Taco walking around him in circles, like doing goofy shit. And you'll see Tank's just on me. He's like, I know, I'm not supposed to do that. And he's getting praised for that. And he's getting pet for that. And then we walk together, side by side. Never met him before. Now they're just walking together. You can see it on the stories. And that was one experience. It probably took, all the experiences that I just, like every rep, it probably took a total of like 5 to 7 minutes. And I was able to walk downtown, go find dogs. That's again, the difference between a trainer and an owner. I'm going to find the trouble so that we don't have to deal with this tomorrow. I'm done with it. You know what I mean? Let's go get your experiences until you believe you don't like to do it anymore. And that's what happened. And so we went and found dogs, and you see there's a different mindset. Now he doesn't think about them the same anymore. All of a sudden it's not fun because he's patterned, he'll bounce back into it. That's why I'm bringing him back out today to like really hammer it in. But it changes the dog's perception. The kid wants to touch the fiery stove because it's beautiful and it's intriguing, and he really wants to touch it. And you keep telling him, no, don't touch the stove, kid. And he's getting frustrated with you, and he's whining because he wants to touch the stove. And that's pretty much you having your dog in heel saying, don't go up on the dog. He's like, I want to, though. It's like the approach we take is like, well, touch it then. They touch it. Of course, it's a controlled experience. So the stove that I let my kid touch, which is a true story, the wood stove, was a barely just warm enough where it would be slightly uncomfortable just to teach him. And you guys know the story on that, right? So after they touch it, they no longer have an interest in touching it. They're like, ouch. And I'm like, yeah, that's hot. We don't touch that because that hurts. Now I don't want to touch it. Could you imagine if I tried to go the next year just telling him and trying to keep him from touching that stove? Just set up a controlled experience where he's going to be safe, but the message is delivered. This is what we did I don't do baby training or anything like that on here, but it's just learning. It's just life lessons that a parent or a dog trainer is given to this child or dog to help them learn and mature and grow when it comes to how to live in the world. So yeah, that's how my young man learned the word hot, first of all, and then he also learned that is something I didn't want to touch, and he doesn't touch it anymore. He understands how it works. So now Tank understands this is what happens when you go up on dogs. It's not fun. If I'm consistent with that, and I'm also going to find dogs to like make sure I'm ahead of him and being like, let's go work on this problem. You see the change in the dog. They don't look at dogs the same anymore. They'd rather stay in heel and all that, and that's where there's no more whining. There's no more pushing. There's no more scanning. But you know what? As soon as I take this leash and I hand it to a different person who did not do the things I did, it does not transfer unless they go and hold them accountable like I did. Because the dog's going to look at the person and say, especially if I've had a past of being able to do whatever I want around you, I'm going to at the very least just push my heel. And I'm going to push this and I'm going to push that. And if you don't put me in my place like that guy did, I'm not going to give you the same level of respect. I'll give you an okay level so that I'm manageable, but I'm not going to give you 100% because, you're not him. Or you're not you haven't done that kind of stuff with me, right? Because remember, relationship is everything. So you have to prove it to your dog. And you can't just tell them, you have to show them. So this is how we would do this. And then this isn't the end of it because we do a holistic approach. That's just to stop the dog from doing the big bad behavior, which most people would be happy with. They'd say, man, this is amazing. Now he's not doing it. But I want to bring it even further with the rehab dogs. So that dog is now also going to learn how to properly socialize with dogs through socials. We do daily socials, and this dog's going to come out and he's going to be around different dogs with different temperaments. And he's going to have to learn how to greet without going into like dominance or sexual thoughts where you're trying to just use this dog in your way or dominate him. None of that is allowed. You're just to socialize, say hi, get to know each other. We're not looking to wrestle. We're not looking to play. We're just looking to say, can you say hello and then move on your way? And so I have to teach this dog that. And what you notice when they come into the play yard, the big bad, bully, and they're not allowed to do that stuff, you see a little bully now. Now they're insecure because, hey, if I can't react at you and dominate, that leaves me vulnerable. So, and I've never allowed myself to be vulnerable before and just let an animal sniff me like this. And I'm there to say, no, you have to. And so you see a dog who is like big and bad. They're not really big and bad. That's what we call false confidence usually. Most of the time it's a puppy who's been in a bubble their whole life and they just think they're big and bad, And then when they get a slice of humble pie or reality hits, they're like, oh, they just see their position and they sink into it. And then we build the dog up from there though. It's a few days down the road, the dog learns nobody attacks you. Everybody's friendly. There's certain rules that you can't do, but you've learned what it is that you're not supposed to do and what it is you're supposed to do. And now you're feeling pretty comfortable. And now you might even just start some appropriate play that we allow. And as the weeks go on, we see a dog who's learning. And by the way, the dogs are always changing. It's not like they get to know, the only group of dogs they get to know that stay the whole time are my 3. But the rest, they'll see different dogs. So they'll learn that process of meeting a new dog. That goes on top of the experiences of teaching the dog that they don't want to do it anymore. And then on top of that, high-end e-collar training sessions where the dog's learning a very, very tight off-leash heel, recall, and stay commands. That's the rehab program. And it changes the way a dog views dogs. It gives them skills that they need to be able to socialize properly. And it shuts down. It punishes and gets rid of the bad thoughts of wanting to go attack dogs, wanting to go explode on dogs. The dog, it really, really does change the way this really changes the way they think. That's why it's so reliable. However, if you have a dog that does not respect you, you have to go and earn that respect, especially if it's a reactive dog. You're going to want to go and walk by dogs safely and correct them for any bullshit, just so they know it goes with you too, the owner. And that's when you seal the deal and the dog says, okay, I'll listen. All right? But we're not micromanaging our dog though. We're not just saying there and saying heel, 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 heel. If you catch yourself, if you've been home with your dog for more than 2 weeks, if this heel, sorry guys, that was, again, I don't want to say her name. You know who interrupted the video. The robot, the headset. She keeps thinking I say her name, and then she just pauses the screen, and I have to tell her to stop, and then eventually she does. So, where was I? Anybody? While you guys remind me where I was, I'm going to read some questions because we had some. Thanks for being patient with me. At what level on the e-collar would you correct a dog for reactivity? You see these type of questions are so big, I can't they're so broad because this is such a finesse thing. It's like, what if I'm working with a 4-pound dog who's very mild reactivity versus a 130-pound dog who's severely reactive? I can't see how that question is too vague. That's how dog trainers get in trouble, and that's what I've learned. We get questions like this, which I appreciate your question. I will answer it, by the way. I just need to educate you guys. If I give you an answer on that and I'm referring to Tank, and then you go and try it and your dog has none of the same characteristics or something and it goes poorly, well, now it must be my training doesn't work, and that's just not the fucking case. If my training didn't work, I wouldn't be busy. So it's me explaining it. It's like we almost need to have a disclaimer. It's like, hey, all this stuff I'm teaching you, don't try it. But we want you to, of course, but you have to understand, if you're asking me what level to correct on, that means that you probably shouldn't be doing it. You're not ready yet, okay? This is how it works on the e-collar, because everyone's thinking numbers. Like, I need to just know what number and what button to push. But that is what gets e-collars a bad name. It works like this. The e-collar that we use goes 0 to 100. The intensity goes up gradually from 1 to 100. What you need to understand is your dog needs to be conditioned to the e-collar, right? They need to understand what that means is they understand that their behaviors is why the e-collar correction took place. They're operant to the fact that their behavior is what's getting corrected, okay? It's not the object that's correcting them. It's not superstitious stuff like this. And they also need to understand that it's, some training on it, I would, before we do this kind of stuff, like a recall and things like this. So when they do get the correction, they're not just stuck there. They get a recall and they come back. But Tank is a sensitive pitty. I'm going to give you an example of what I did with him to help a question like this. So I did not give him, if you look around this stuff, you'll find online that the most common thing is you give the dog, you max out the collar. You give the 100 on the collar at the right moment, and it works. And that is true for a lot of dogs, but for the super sensitive dogs, I like to do a dial up to find the number that I feel like's working. So with Tank, I started at like a 40 or a 50. It was like he's a sensitive guy. And I went on with that. And then I noticed that, he was just not even really reacting to it. And I did a quick dial up as I was holding down the button. Because what I'm looking for is a certain reaction from the dog. I don't want to see, this is the thing about numbers. If I say, hey, use a 75, right? It might be too much or too little for your dog. In that moment, I want to see how the dog responds. So I'm not going to stop until I find the number where the dog says, fuck! Right? I don't want to just warn him. Not if I want to shut it down, and not in the way that I just described it, and not in the one that you see on Instagram when you see the pictures. He didn't get a warning there. He got a full on in his eyes. He told me, this is what Julie asked me the same question afterwards. She said, what number did you make it to? And I didn't know. I didn't know because I honestly, even when I just told you 40 or 50, I don't even know if that's true, because I already had it on like something. And what I did is when I turned it on, I just dialed up until I seen the response that I want, which is him going, ah! And then beep, turn him around. I don't want him to feel it enough to then snap out of it and make a better choice. I want him to touch the fucking stove, which means a full-on consequence. I don't want him to be warned about the stove over and over again. Not the first time. You gotta let them touch it. It's gotta be heavy enough to make them question the behavior again. And then you're on to a good place, because then you can teach what to do and what behavior caused it and clean it up in that session. But this is how you create a confused dog. They don't know what this sensation is. You just put it on for the first time. They have no idea what it is. They go in, whatever. Maybe your timing's right even. It's probably not going to be right. But even if your timing is right, the dog says, what the fuck just happened? Because I have no idea what this is. They're going to assume it came from the other dog, more than likely. Which isn't the worst thing in the world. Sometimes that's what you want to create, but most of the time you want your dog operant to this stuff. And then they don't know what to do afterwards. They haven't had state of mind training on it, which it means to calm down. They don't know it's the handler. They don't know recall on it. And it's a mess. And then it's like, oh, e-collars are bad tools. Let me tell you something about the e-collar. It's no different than any other tool. It's no different than a gun or your hands. It's all about how you use it. How about your hands and feet? How much damage do you think you could do with your hands and feet versus this little fucking mini educator that goes to 100 that isn't even real electricity? You know what I mean? You do way more damage with your hands and feet. It's the person who's using it, right? Guns don't kill people, right, guys? You guys know that. People kill people, right? It's that kind of shit. It's like e-collars aren't bad. They're just bad in the wrong hands, right? People don't know what they're doing. They're fantastic. They help so many dogs, you know, so, and owners. So, moving on down here, guys. That's Goji, humble pie. He has had the biggest turnaround of all. Yeah, he needed some. I remember Goji. Yeah, Goji wasn't even too long ago. He did need some humble pie. He was high up on his own pedestal. In his eyes, he was up here. He got the humble pie. He lived on the bottom for a little while he was here. We built him up confidently, but not too confidently, where he thinks he's, you know, where it's false. And then you continue, and obviously they're in a good place. But he needed to be taken down a few pegs, you know, or put in his place, right? I mean, that's what we use, that terminology. We just came up with that because that was the question that we had and that I answered on Monday. The dial up, that's my method, because what you can do is you can start at something that they don't feel, and you can find that level that they care about and then back off. So you don't overcorrect, you don't undercorrect, but you got to be quick on that dial sometimes so that, you know, the dog does get a consequence. We want them to have a consequence for this first time kind of stuff. Or if they really explode, it's like you want it to be aversive to the point where the dog says, I want that not to happen again, so I guess I won't do that again. Okay? All right? Got some more questions. Gus and Dad says, we've had success correcting the reactivity and lunging with Gus around other dogs, but still have some lingering whining. I gotcha. Do you suggest using e-collar to correct whining or just continued mindset work? So depending on what they got for e-collar knowledge, you can correct whining for the whining. But actually, I'm just going to talk to you guys like this because I feel like you can handle it. Here's what you can get into. Here's the problem you can run into. If the dog doesn't know that you're correcting the whining, if they don't understand that it's the whining you're correcting, that's where you run in trouble. So if you're correcting a dog for whining and they're like, why the fuck am I being corrected right now? I'm in heel or I'm in a down. And they don't know that it's the whining, because this can happen. I'm not saying this will happen to your dog. Maybe they'll get it right away. But some dogs, they'll be like, I don't understand it. And there's some work that you got to do, you know, in a training room to get them to understand that it's their whining, and then bring it out, and then they'll get it. But listen, it should work, especially if you have a leash on. You can just say no when they're whining, tap on the e-collar, and then give a little pop on the prong, something physical from you. No, relax. And basically, if you look at it this way, you're saying no to whatever you're whining about. I'm saying no to the thing you want to do or the thing you're worried about. I'm just saying no to that. No. And see what that does for you. See if correcting the whining now. A lot of what happens, guys, is these things digress, right? So you get a dog who's lunging and barking. Boom, 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 doing the big bad thing. Up on 2 feet. Now you correct that, and it degresses to maybe a grumble, a growl. And then you correct that, and maybe it degresses to a whine, right? And then you correct that, and finally they'll let it go. But it can be a process with some dogs that are reactive. So what you've probably seen is some digression of the reactivity. Now we got to talk about what reactivity is, just so everybody's clear. If the dog's walking along, and then it sees something in the environment, and it does not change its reaction at all, it's not reactive, right? If the dog sees something and then becomes reactive to it, it sees it and starts to become interactive with it, or wants to get interactive with it, this is what we identify as reactivity. So if a dog sees something and just starts panting when it sees this thing, that's reactivity. If a dog sees it and it starts whining, that's reactivity. Why? Because it's reacting to the thing that just entered the environment. What we're going for is them to not react to it, to just be passive. I'm not telling them to blindfold the dog or themselves and to plug their ears. I'm just saying, don't be interactive. Don't have an interactive mindset while we're walking. That goes on the break. When I release you, then you can be interactive. And this is what you need to teach your dog. When we're walking, passive. That means you can see the things. That's fine. But don't interact. Don't be reactive to them or try or want to be interactive with them on the walk. Be passive. So whining is reactivity. Barking and lunging is obviously reactivity. Seeing another dog or person or squirrel and leaving the command, but not whining, not doing anything, just leaving the command because you've seen something in the environment is reactivity. It is. All of it is. All of it is. Literally seeing another dog and then the ears go up and the dog just starts looking at it and that's all it does. That's reactivity. Why? Because something entered the environment and they reacted to it and they stayed on it. Now what it should look like is they see that thing, okay, I see it, and I just keep going. I'm not hyper focused on anything. I am aware, but I'm just walking because I'm more focused on walking with my handler and staying in heel because we're headed somewhere. And when we get to that place we're headed, he's going to release me and then I can go have fun. Like the dog's still going to get to go do the fun things and be interactive. It just has to know not while we're driving to the amusement park. I don't want to throw the party while we're driving the amusement park. When we get there, then you guys can go, okay? Once we're into the fenced-in amusement park, kids, then you can go have fun. But while we're driving there, be quiet, right? That's what my dad used to do. Shut up or we're turning around. Okay, we got another. That was a great question, by the way, Gus. Very, very good. Keep working on that. Keep us updated, Gus. We'd be curious to know because you've stopped the lunging and barking and now you got the whining. So you're getting there. You're on your way. Soon it'll be the whining. Sometimes it's just experiences where it's like you just got to walk by more dogs and who knows what's underneath the hood with your dog. If they're actually concerned that the other dog, if I don't bite first and bark first, they might come over here. That's the insecurity part. Proving to the dog that nothing happens when we walk by these dogs, if you stay with me, should help with that as well. But you can absolutely correct the whining if you think it's appropriate. Use your best judgment, all right? Use your best judgment. We correct whining every day. That's why it's quiet here. Awesome. I know that was a kind of a very sloppy. I really appreciate you saying that you love it, and that was a great explanation of reactivity. I've definitely done better, but these early morning things, I get it out. You guys eventually pick up on it seems. So, awesome answer. Thanks. This is a dog who used to redirect on us when correcting reactivity. Woo! So definitely some digression. That is impressive, my friend, especially if you're not a professional. Good job on taking it. This is the kind of stuff that makes me happy. You took it upon yourself. You started working on it, even if it was with a trainer, if you've done it on your own, and you're making progress. And this dog used to redirect on you, which is the hardest kind. This is such a difficult thing to deal with. But it will get better and better and better and better. And obviously the dog's worth it because you're putting this work into it. Hey, Mark's here. You were saying if you're constantly saying heel, 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 then cut it out. Yes, yeah, and I can cover that, Mark. When you're teaching heel, that's not what I'm talking about, okay? Because of course you're going to say it a lot when you're teaching it more than likely. So the dog, I understand that. But if the dog already knows heel, the teaching process is long gone. We're past that. You ask, the rule of thumb is you ask once, and if the dog doesn't do it, you correct once. So it's a 1-1 ratio. Okay, I ask once. If you don't do it, I correct once. And then I'm going to go back and ask once. And if you don't do it, I'm going to correct once. So I'm not saying heel, 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 like 5, 6 heels and then a correction. I'm saying heel, 1 Mississippi, correct. Heel, 1 Mississippi, correct firmer, heel. Good. Okay, that's a simple pattern. I'm not saying that's the only way to do it, but that's a good way if you're working on something. And another good way is just if the dog knows heel and it's like off leash and it's e-collar or whatever, even if you're walking it with a leash but it's an e-collar, it's got an e-collar on, you can literally just correct silently because the dog, I do it all the time. The dog knows that in the context of this leash being around my neck, it means I got to walk right here. Unless told otherwise. And that's the way that I do it with these dogs. So it's like if I have a leash in my hand, that means you're walking in heel. What else would it mean? Unless I've put you in a sit and then say break, then I will let a dog go out in front of me and kind of go where they want to go. And that's fine. That's fine. But the default understanding of what a leash means is to be in heel unless told otherwise. And so that makes things a lot easier. So now I don't have to say heel because they just know that the rule is when we're walking, unless I've told you to go out and sniff, you got to be walking. And dude, that is, as an owner, that's what I primarily do. I just say, this leash is on, that means walk with me. And I'll say heel every now and then if I have to. But it's just saying, while we're walking, this is what we do unless I've invited you to do otherwise. And that's your workaround of having to, be clucking as Keeler would say. He would say, if you're clucking at your dog like heel, like a bunch of chickens, like cluck, 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 then stop. And it works for him and it works for me. So think of it this way, Mark. The more you talk to your dog, you ask it to do something and it continues not to, the more irrelevant that sound becomes of your voice. Your voice becomes irrelevant. So imagine every time you say one of the 5 commands, if you correct for not doing it, those words become very powerful. They stay very relevant in the dog's brain, so they're listening for them and they react to your voice and they react to the specific words. But if we say heel, 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 and then correct, we're wearing it down. It's not becoming as strong. And we want them strong. They're commands. Very good question, though. Very good question. I'll cover that more, Mark. That's a good one to cover, and like the patterns to use while correcting known commands or that kind of stuff is good. Also, if you're not on our Facebook page or our YouTube, we do a lot of stuff where you just see me working. You can just watch my sessions. So, some of them I talk in them a lot, and some of them I just do the session and Julie just records it and you can watch. So there's a lot of stuff to go through, but you'll see me doing all this stuff. Okay, let's make sure we got everything. We talked about setups and controlled experiences, and that's how we're going to get to stopping it. Once we've had these controlled experiences and the dog's doing really well, like Tank's had his controlled experiences. I don't need to do that anymore. Now what I'm going to do is go proof it by going and walking around the real world safely while still using these dogs out in the environment to test to see where he's at in his reactivity and his mind. And that's where he's at now, and that's what we're doing today with that particular dog, which is what we do with every dog. So he knows heel and all that, and I'm going to start using it and putting him in situations that are difficult. I got to put him in situations that are more difficult than his average daily situation. You understand? I got to push him. I got to push the limit. I got to go walk by a dog park with a bunch of dogs barking and stuff like this. Things that he would rarely run into. I got to go put him through it. All right? So that's the proofing process. We've talked about social skills. Oh my God. I think we did it, guys. I think we made it through this amazing topic. Yeah. Congrats on who was that said Gus and Dads. They've been doing a really great job with their dog. That's good to hear. Mark says makes perfect sense. We'll work on that. And my girlfriend, it's really, it's funny. I used to do it. We all do it. It's so natural. I still do it sometimes, just say it too many times and catch myself. It might take you a while, but I think you find if you ask your dog to do something and then they ignore you and then you just correct it and then ask again, I think you're going to find it to work really well. Okay. Mylan, e-collar corrections for Alistair's reactivity were not effective for me no matter the level. Maybe poor timing. It took me using my hands for the correction to really make a difference. Now, Mylan, this can happen, and you know this because I've helped Mylan through this. For certain dogs, and I am a firm believer in this is why I do this with my dogs. For certain dogs, when it comes to the owner and the dog's relationship, if you learn and take the time, which Mylan did, if you're having issues with the e-collar being effective, the hand corrections, the Cesar Millan corrections, the dog whispering stuff, even the old school stuff like swaps and stuff, if the dog's not aggressive, go a long ways. A bonker, same thing, it goes a long ways. And I think you'll find that after you have a dog who respects that about you, your e-collar is going to now, you're going to be able to talk at lower levels to your dog. And the reason what happens, like Mylan's situation, is the dog gets they go 0, 60. So they get stuck in this place, and he's right. These collars aren't as strong as everybody thinks they are. They're just not. Okay, they're not this big bad thing that's going to blow your dog's head off. At one point or another, the dog's too amped up to even give a shit about it. You're right? That's why we take a holistic approach, so we can keep our dogs calm. Because if our dogs are calm and respectful, they will listen to the e-collar. But if they trigger, in Mylan's case, Alistair just went bang, like a shepherd does. Just, I'm not in that mode, I'm calm, and then bang, I'm in that mode. And so it's a shit show. Mylan started taking it into his own hands, learning how to do these corrections. We did some sessions together, and now he's seeing a difference. Okay? And Alistair's a difficult dog, a difficult reactive case. Big guy, he's a shepherd. Not easy. But it just goes to show that like that old school stuff, there's something about hand-to-hand dealing with it. And I know we're an e-collar program, and we don't teach people how to do this stuff usually, but Mylan had some extra training from us. You need to show the dog where he is from animal to animal, between you and him. With a certain dog, especially like Alistair, is a dominant German Shepherd, right? You need to let him know, I can win a physical altercation all by myself. I don't need the collar. I don't need anything. And I don't like when you do this behavior. And it makes a fucking difference. Would you go figure? It makes a difference. Now you got it. You can't just fake it. You got to mean it, and you got to do your study on how to do it and all that. But this is another example of putting a dog in their place, and that's what Mylan's doing. And I'm glad to see that it's working for you. Alistair's a really good dog, but he does have that issue, and he needs to know who he's with and what they're capable of, because some dogs need you to prove it to them. They didn't grow and become more politically correct as we did as a species. They're still primitive. Okay, so we can't forget that. I remember Julie at drop off, stim and no, because you want the power of no to stay strong. Yes, you want to say no and then stim, right? So you say no and then stim, which is the correction, so that no becomes technically it's a conditioned punisher, if you want to talk about it scientifically. And it will actually be able to correct your dog without the e-collar, and it will be effective, but it needs to be maintained. It will wear off over the course of months. How is it maintained? Easy. If you ask twice and the dog doesn't do it, correct. That way it's always maintained. Whatever your verbal punisher is, if it's no, if it's a, or if it's whatever you use, you ask once. If the dog listens, they're fine. If they don't, they always got a physical correction they care about. That's what keeps you relevant. It's just how it is, okay? You keep getting pulled over and getting warnings, you're going to continue to speed, okay? Mark's dog is coming to us in October. Awesome. We will get her or him where it needs to be, and life will be good. A nose bop. Nose bops work. Awesome. Guys, it's been great. We did it. And listen, let me go back to that one question. I didn't mean to be rude on that question. Where was it? It was at the top. Yeah, there was a question about what level. That was not to be rude. It's a fantastic question. I really appreciate your question. But you understand that I have to put that out there so that I'm not saying, hey, if you do this level, your dog will be fine, because every dog's different. Like we talked about, there's the fearful dogs, there's the dogs who want to go bully, there's the dogs who want to go play, and there's the dogs who want to go prey, and they want to go after things in a bad way, like cats and dogs and small dogs, or cats and squirrels and small dogs. So moral of the story though, all these dogs were walking along, set up a controlled experience. A dog comes walking by, the dog makes a choice, the dog goes to react, it gets an aversive, we repeat. We walk by another dog, the dog doesn't react, it gets a praise. And we just do this a number of times until the dog understands what's expected, what we like and what we don't like. And then the dog gets it. Now we go and do walks daily for the next week around dogs and just really proof it. And you can really change a dog. And it does not take that. The people who are struggling with it for years and years and years and years, it can be solved like that. So, it's just how it goes. Thanks for joining in, guys. Leash reactivity, crazy. You know our dogs have leash reactivity. Riggins had it and probably still does have it. If he wasn't with somebody that he respected, he absolutely would start doing it again, because he's the type of dog that did it for fun. All right, guys, in the comments below, let me know what else we want to tackle this week. We just did leash reactivity. Let's see where else we're going to go from here. It's Wednesday. We got 2 more this week. Give me some direction. Leave me some comments. I always love to hear how it's going with you and your dogs, even if it's great or if it's not so great. Let me know. Let me know what you're doing. Gives me some insight. Also, these videos will be eventually deleted off from Instagram once they're up for a little while, and they're already over on YouTube in a playlist. Julia's Canine Academy. The playlist is Josh Talks. So just so you know, these will start getting deleted off from Instagram, just so you know they take up a lot of space. But we let them hang out here for a little while so we can get the interactivity, the activity going. We can talk and figure out what you guys like. Okay? I'll see you guys tomorrow. Let me know what you want to talk about. We'll come up with something good. And enjoy your day. Stay